If it's like consistency or intensity, I think you actually have to give the nod to consistency. If you can only choose one, yeah, I think you're supposed to be consistent. That probably makes you intense, by the way, by definition. My name is Brian. I'm an executive coach that helps successful professionals get wealthy outside of the office in their mind, their body, and their relationships. I'm an expert at this because I did it myself. I sat in your seat for 2 decades inside of corporate America. If I can do it, so can you. Welcome back to the show. Happy Labor Day. The time of this recording dropping, it is Monday, early September 2024. Summer is gone. It's over. Welcome to almost the fourth quarter. Welcome back to the work world. Welcome back to real life. Although I guess technically we have one more day. One more day. If you're listening to this on Monday, thank you. I appreciate you. If you're listening to this on Monday, you probably are somebody who takes action. So I don't really need to have you worry and stir you up about you not doing anything for the last couple of weeks. But shout out to everybody who's been waiting for the last few weeks to start things tomorrow that they could have started 3 weeks ago. Hope you take action in your life. We are nearing the end of the year. We're entering football season. We're entering the fall. We're entering the fourth quarter coming up. And the good news is that we still have 4 months left. The bad news is that we have 8 months that are gonzo, and it'll be a blink of an eye, snap of a finger, whatever analogy you want, where I'll be talking about Labor Day 2025. I'll be talking about New Year's Eve 2024, 2025. I'll be talking about next summer. We'll be talking about how time flies. Time always flies. I mention this a lot, but it's important to know or to be reminded that, you know, our days can feel really long. The weeks can feel really long. Sometimes we may not know when this season, this mini season of our life is going to end, this struggle that you have. And then we blink our eyes and our kids are starting high school. And in high school, they're out of elementary school. They're in their last year of elementary school. They're starting high school. Those are my kids right now. My wife and I look at each other. We're like, we're not even old enough to have kids. What are we doing? And so wherever you are in the parenting spectrum, in terms of where your kids are, in terms of age, you get it. Because just yesterday, in air quotes, they were babies, you know, or just yesterday you didn't have kids, or just yesterday you couldn't even fathom being married. And so here we are. Life continues to roll on, and this podcast is going to roll on because I need to get the hell out of this intro and get into today's message because I have a time budget, you have a time budget, and I don't want to waste it. All right. Our time is very important. The last few weeks I've been really trying to dig in a little bit, hopefully get you a little bit uncomfortable about where you're at, some of the lies that you're telling yourself, some of the mistakes that you're making and maybe not even knowing it. So I hope the last couple weeks have been impactful for you. I know I've gotten a lot of feedback from people saying like, yeah, I didn't even realize, like I thought that way. I thought I didn't have enough time. I constantly were doing, you know, these things. I always had this challenge in my head. I made this mistake that when I got to this weight, it was over. And then that's why I just continually kept gaining the 15 or the 25 pounds back. And I've lost the same 20 pounds 10 fucking times in the last 10 years. And man, it sucks. And so I want to move into a slightly different conversation, but that is very much related because I see people doing this stuff all the time and making mistakes around how they're going about change, effectuating change in their life, what they're doing, for how long, the mistakes they make, and talk to you about this concept that I bring up a lot, quite frankly. And it's the debate of consistency versus intensity. And before I give some context and my explanation and tell you what I think is better, because it's always nuanced, there's not one, there's not the other, just like in a lot of aspects of nutrition and fitness and how we operate our personal lives, everything's contextual. So if you send me a message saying, hey, is this good or bad? Just wait. Just wait for a long response. You ain't getting a good or a bad or a yes or a no out of me. Not even close. Especially, you know, like if you don't pay me. If you pay me and you need a quick answer, I might give you a quick answer. If you don't pay me, there's going to be context. There's going to be nuance. Because typically people, when they ask a question like that, what's better? What's good or bad? They just want something that's confirming their bias, confirming something that they already believe to be true. And so you just want me to tell you if cold plunges are good or bad. You just want me to tell you if fasting is good or bad. You just want a yes or a no about carbs. And so like the world doesn't work that way. Okay. And so there's a lot of reasons why you should get in a cold plunge. There are a couple of reasons why getting in a cold plunge is absolutely irrelevant. That doesn't make me pro or con cold plunges. It makes the reasoning behind them, the context behind it. Context is king. Right? I was taught the first two things I was taught when I went to my first education on nutrition, my first certification. I have multiple nutrition certifications. I have continued to educate myself throughout this entire journey that I've been on in this second mountain I've been climbing so that I can appropriately serve the people who need me the most. I was told two things, all right? Education equals compliance and context is king. Shout out to NCI for incredible, the Nutritional Coaching Institute for incredible knowledge that I learned from them, right? Education equals compliance. I educate you. If you come back over and over again, you should know more. I educate my clients. I don't want them to work with me for the rest of their life. Some people work with me for years because of the accountability and the results that they get. But if you can work with me for a period of time and then I can send you off into the real world, that's the win. That's really the win. But you need to be educated in order to do that. Context is very important because you are a unique individual. And what you're doing and why ties into why or what you should be doing. And so I can't just say yes or no. I'm a 6'6", 230 pound male. My wife is, I'm not going to say her weight, but she's a lot less, 100 pounds less than me. I don't even know how tall she is, 5'6", 5'7", something like that. She looked great, by the way. My wife was looking fine. Shout out to Tasha Pannuzzo. Tasha Blasi is like her professional name. I'm like Brian Blasi out there in the streets, but it's contextual. Like we shouldn't be doing the same things all the time. Male, female, 100-pound difference, a foot difference in height. We shouldn't be doing the same things. So everything is contextual, all right? And you have to understand that people bring their biases, their personal bias into whatever discussion that you're having. And so I said the phrase consistency beats intensity for a really long time. And I'll explain why, right? Before I do that, I realized by going into the Google machines and searching up that was actually a quote from Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee, the master. Long-term consistency beats short-term intensity. Long-term consistency beats short-term intensity. I agree with that, but there's always a but, okay? But why do you need to just focus on one or the other? And I'm going to talk to you about a world where maybe both should coexist. Here's another quote. Intensity makes a good story. Consistency makes progress. That's from James Clear. Atomic Habits is somewhere behind me. It's one of my favorite books. James Clear wrote an amazing book called Atomic Habits. If you're not on YouTube, I just looked behind to my bookshelf. Check me out on YouTube at Brian Pannuzzo. Intensity makes a good story. Consistency makes progress. That's true. Is it totally true? Yes and no. It depends. Another thing you'll hear from me all the time is it depends. It depends on what and why and how, right? So if you're going to choose one or another, if it's like consistency or intensity, I think you actually have to give the nod to consistency. But who says that you have to do both? Let me dial that back. Who says that you have to do one or another? Freudian slip right there, because I think you can do both. And I'll explain why. But if you can only choose one, yeah, I think you're supposed to be consistent. That probably makes you intense, by the way, by definition. All right, but here's what I said for a long time. I said that consistency beats intensity for a long time because that's what I lived. That's what I knew. I'm a compound interest guy. Financial concepts make a lot of sense to me. That's why most of my clients are financial professionals. I can get down with this notion of putting deposits into a bank, doing things over and over and over again and building wealth. I showed up to work every single day and put my time in, put the work in. When I didn't feel like it, I had grit. I did it anyway, just like we all do in our careers. Then when we have a slight hiccup in our personal lives, our entire protocols go to shit. Why? What if you just treated it like your career? What if you just showed up anyway? What if you did it when you didn't feel like it? That's intensity, by the way. That's intensity. And so you may have intensity in aspects of your life you don't even realize it. I think showing up when you don't want to is an act of intensity because you could choose not to. You always have a choice. And why do you go to work even when you don't want to? Because you feel like you're obligated to, because you need to provide for your family, because you have this career that you have hung your hat on, that it defines you as a person. So the way most people do it is really broken, because what they do when it comes to intensity is run as fast as they possibly can out of the gates. January 1st. They come sprinting out of the gates with some sort of challenge. And of course, we all know by like the 6th or the 13th or whatever, they pull a fucking hammy and they get back to the sidelines and they go, yeah, this didn't work. And they consistently reconfirm the story that they told themselves for years and years, that they are not built to do something. They're not set up. They're not successful in one area of their life. They're just this. They're just, they're not a morning person. They're a perfectionist. They're all or nothing. So many bullshit phrases that we throw out there. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a control freak. If you're a control freak, then why isn't your life perfectly in order? If you're a perfectionist, why isn't your life perfectly in order? If you're all or nothing, why would you ever choose nothing? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So like we put labels on ourselves because we either were told that as a young person, we developed that belief somehow, some way, throughout repetition, throughout consistency, and over and over and over again. And it continues to be true because you continue to take the same actions over and over again, therefore cementing that this is the process. And until you try it a different way, it's going to continue to be true. And so you don't have to choose between the two, is what I discovered in the last year and a half. I was a huge consistency beats intensity guy. I changed my life because of that motto. I just took a longer term approach and said, I'm really, really good at showing up to work on a daily basis. I probably should stay home today because I'm a little too hungover, but I get up and I go to work anyway. I always show up for the important stuff in my family's life. I'm really good at being around a group of people and knowing what somebody needs because I'm listening and I hear them say like, oh, my drink is low. And I just go fill up the drink when we have people at the house or something like that. I'm good with like this repetition of the boring basics. That's one part of the James Clear quote that I love. Intensity makes a good story. Consistency makes progress. If we sat down at a couple's dinner, at a dinner party, at a night out, and you were like, Brian, you are looking absolutely jacked. Yes, I am. And I started to tell you why and how I've achieved a certain result in my life. You would get so disinterested after about 45 seconds that you'd be like, yeah, okay, all right, next conversation. Because what you would be hoping to hear is some flashy story about how I'm doing some crazy challenge that requires me to do some dumb shit that you find interesting for a period of time until you try it and then you're like, no, this sucks too. But when I tell you that I make sure I walk 15,000 steps a day, I've tracked my nutrition for the last 435 consecutive days. I have not missed a day. It doesn't mean I've been perfect, by the way. It just means I've tracked 435 or whatever it is consecutive days. I check in with my coach on a weekly basis. I follow a structured program. I do it anyway when I don't feel like it most of the time, if not all the time. And when I do fall off track, because God knows I get right back to it as fast as possible. And I just do that over and over and over again. And oh, by the way, I did sprinkle in the magic dust of adding some intensity to my life. And that's where I've now decided that it isn't consistency or intensity. It's both. And that's where you can find some magical results in your life. It's what you've done in your career for the last 10, 15, 20 plus years. You've shown up on a daily basis. You don't miss work. Dad, get out of here with that. You don't miss work because you have the sniffles. You don't miss work because you had a bad night's sleep. You don't miss work because you're stressed out. You're fighting with your spouse. You show up. Then when you show up just about all the time, you get after it. You perform really well. That's consistency and intensity at the same time. Look what it's done in your career. Why wouldn't you apply the same concept to your personal life? What if you consistently had connected conversations with your spouse? What if you consistently took the amount of steps you need to on a daily basis to achieve your health, body composition, longevity goals? What if you consistently checked in with an accountability partner? What if you consistently hit your targets with your nutrition? Like hitting the targets, checking in, that's intensity. So it's both. It's both creates exponential results. I am living proof of that. When you do both, you get extraordinary results. And remember, I've said this before, the word extraordinary, I say it real fast, right? Extraordinary. But what if we started to pronounce it extraordinary, the way it's spelled? In order to be extraordinary, you need to do extra. You must. You cannot be extraordinary and not do extra. That's consistency and intensity over time. Everybody starts and stops. Everybody does things for 4 days a week. That's average. Statistically, that's actually below average. As you know, being someone who is fond of compounding and math and all things investing, 4 days a week is only 42%. Sorry, 58%. The other three that you're fucking up are 42. You're failing. You're failing class. I did a podcast on this. You're a D student and you don't even know it. That's at best for a lot of people. And so I now have a new personal bias because we all have a personal bias in life. We all come to a conversation. We all come to a point of view with our history, our context, our belief system, our worldview. And so my new personal bias is that it's consistency and intensity. And that's where the magic is. That's where the magic is. Now understand that there is an absolute value of all these and a relative value. So my consistency may look different than yours. Now I think consistency is probably a little bit more closer to the absolute on the spectrum. Like you're kind of either consistent or you're not, right? You kind of either show up or you don't. That's kind of the definition. But intensity, now we're talking relative value all day. And I know most people understand the difference between absolute and relative value, right? Absolute value, my portfolio is up 7%. Relative value, my portfolio is up 7%. The market's up 15%. I suck. So my version of intensity could be very different than yours. And your version of intensity can and should evolve over time. So intensity for someone, this is the mistake we make. You watch what I do and you're like, Brian does this, I'm going to do that. Brian's been doing this for 10 plus years. Why would you start this on day one? I didn't do this on day one. The program that I take executives through is a far less intense program than I currently apply in my own life. Why? Because I'm way past that. And yes, there are levels to ascend, all the executives that come through my group coaching program and the company wellness program certainly get pitched and offers, and I look to ascend them into one-on-one coaching, a more intense version once you graduate. My son just started freshman year of high school. He's not going to take senior level classes. He may play on the freshman basketball team. Now he's got goals to play on the varsity baseball team, but it's like he's got to make the freshman team first. He's probably got to play a little bit of JV and do really, really well to ever get moved up. You don't just get placed into spots unless you're like an outlier, right? And we look at the outliers and we go, oh, this is what they did. So this is what I should probably do. And that's why so many people fail. And you look at what people are doing now, it's not necessarily what got them to look the way they look or to be at a level of success that they are. Like these elaborate morning routines and things that like very successful people do. They didn't do that shit to get successful. They woke up and they fucking worked on their business. They probably sacrificed their health for a period of time. Now they're doing cold plunging and yoga and mobility and lifting and green juicing and interpretive dance for the first 90 minutes of their day. And you think, and I think I'm supposed to do that. What are we nuts? Wake up, attack your shit, get to work. Maybe that's your physical body. Maybe that's you need to meditate for a little while, but get to work. Do something for yourself, but get to work. We ain't worth $1 billion yet. If you are, shout out to you. I'm gonna raise my prices. Come work with me. There's an absolute and relative value of each of these things. Your performance does not need to be my performance. Your performance needs to be consistent. You need to build some consistency in your life. Where can you do that? Well, we start to look at when someone begins to work with me, what they're currently doing. Because again, you go right to, I saw this, I'm going to start to do this, but where are you relative to that? And so with consistency, you need to figure out where you currently are and then start to move the bar a little bit higher over and over and over again. And these are ways you can statistically and reliably and consistently achieve the things that you want. Now, within that, we can start to look at, I'm walking for 30 minutes a day. Cool. What sort of pace are you walking at? I'm going to the gym 3 times a week. Okay. Are you doing the work intensely enough in the gym, or are you going through the motions? I'm ordering chicken and rice every day. Yes, but you're ordering it from a place that has additional sauces and whatever. And yeah, and this is an upgrade from fast food, but like we're leaving some money on the table there. And so can we get a little more intense by increasing the quality, therefore lowering the calories of the food that you're eating? So you can apply this logic to everywhere. I just went from walking to working out to chicken and rice. Thanks if you're still with me. So to wrap this up, because let's keep this short, it is a holiday, and I know you're listening to this on Monday or at least the week back, and you're probably busy getting back to school and getting back into the work swing. What can you do over the next week or two to improve your consistency in some areas of your life? And then how can you apply a little bit more intensity? Not a lot, because if you attempt to apply a lot, you're going to be right back where you were previous, which is saying that it doesn't work, making up a reason why this isn't for you, telling people that you're all or nothing, or that you are a control freak, or you're a perfectionist, or you're not a morning person, and all the bullshit lies and the stories that you tell yourself. And I just want you to stop doing that, because none of it's true. It's only true because you continue to do the same things over and over again, and therefore you get the same results. And that is the definition of insanity, because if we got honest with each other and had an honest conversation, maybe one-on-one, you would say, yeah, I don't want this anymore. And that's a tough place for somebody to be, because they realize that they continue to do the same things that is not working are not working, and you're not getting a result, and then you just keep coming back to the same thing. And why wouldn't you try another way instead of just making up a reason why that didn't work again? The only constant in the whole equation is you. If 5 different diets didn't work for you, if 4 different exercise programs didn't work for you, if you tried something for 5 straight years, the only constant is you. And so you need to start thinking about where you're coming from. And if you maybe should try a different way, believe something different. I tell my clients all the time they have to borrow belief from me for a period of time. You are going to start doing things and not know if they're going to work. You may not believe it. You may have failed over and over and over again. Therefore, you do not trust yourself. Confidence is intense trust in yourself. When you have failed, you don't have it. That's a fact. And so there's ways for you to start to rebuild that. Number one, just by simply keeping promises to yourself. It is an incredible way to build your confidence really fast, even if there are very basic things that you're doing. But for a period of time, you're going to have to start to take steps and move in a direction that is the unknown. And that is scary. That is trusting a process that you, quite frankly, don't believe works because you've never done it before. And that's where finding people who have done it along the way can help. There are hundreds and thousands of examples of people who are doing things that you currently wish that you were doing, and therefore it's possible. And that's why I say, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Because what I did is not special. What I continue to do is not special. I show up and I work my ass off in all areas of my life that I want to improve, not just my career. And you telling yourself that you can't do it in one area because you're doing it in another is bullshit. You telling yourself that it's not possible for you because you're some sort of way is bullshit. I'm not meant to look the way I look. I look the way I look because of the work I put into it. I should probably be another statistic, divorce statistic. But I'm not, because I worked at it. You can too. That's it. You can too. I should have been exactly who I told myself I was for 15 years. And my life would look a lot different right now, in my opinion. And so I want you to begin to apply both consistency and intensity into your life. I want you to stop telling yourself this fucking story that you have it some way and it is some way because of something. You're not who you think you are. You're not who you've always been. You're only that person. You're only this way. You only have what you have because you continue to do the same things. And if you start doing something different, you're going to get different results. I promise you that. Welcome to September. Let's go have an amazing end of 2024 together. If I can help you, reach out to me, Brian at thesuccesslift.com. Check out thesuccesslift.com. Jump on my email list. Check me out on social at Brian Pannuzzo. I appreciate you. See you back here next week.